Captain Lee Minho stood on the bridge of the Hanbok, watching the massive space station grow larger through the viewport. After 3 months of travel, they had finally reached Harmony Station, home of the Galactic Council. This was humanity's first real chance to join the galaxy's biggest alliance. "Communications coming in, Captain," said Lieutenant Park Ji-won from her station. She was Earth's best expert on alien languages and had spent years preparing for this moment. "They're speaking in Standard Galactic. I can understand most of it," Minho nodded. Behind him, Admiral Kim Tae-hyun watched quietly. The old man had fought in Earth's last major war 20 years ago. Now he was here to see humanity take its first steps into a much bigger universe. "Tell them we come in peace," Minho said, "and that we're honored to meet them." The station was beautiful. It looked like a crystal flower floating in space, with 12 different sections for each member species of the Council. Thousands of ships moved around it like busy insects. Some looked like metal birds, others like floating gems. None looked anything like human ships. A voice came through the speakers, translated by the ship's computer. "Human vessel Hanbok, you are cleared to dock at Section 7. A representative will meet you there." As they docked, Minho felt nervous excitement in his stomach. Earth had been alone for so long. Now they might finally have friends among the stars. The docking bay was huge, with a breathable atmosphere that smelled like flowers and metal. A tall, thin creature waited for them. It had blue skin that seemed to glow softly and 4 arms. Its face was kind, with large silver eyes. "I am Counselor Velthara of the Ethereal Collective," it said through a translation device. "Welcome to Harmony Station. We are curious to learn about your species." Dr. Park Ji-won stepped forward. She had studied every piece of information they had about alien cultures. "Thank you for meeting us. We hope to show that humans can be good friends to the galaxy." The tour of the station amazed them. They saw gardens that grew in zero gravity, machines that created matter from pure energy, and libraries that stored the knowledge of 12 different worlds. Each council species had contributed something special to the Alliance. The Council has kept peace for over 2,000 years, Velthara explained as they walked through a hall filled with floating art. "Each member brings their strengths. The builders create our homes. The healers tend to our sick. The watchers guard our borders. What can humanity offer?" Admiral Tae-hyun smiled. "We're good at solving problems. When something seems impossible, humans find a way." They were taken to a meeting chamber where representatives from all 12 species waited. Some looked almost human. Others were so strange that Ji-won had to use her computer to understand their body language, but all seemed interested in learning about Earth. The presentation went well at first. Minho talked about human history, their art, and their dreams of exploring space. Ji-won shared human music and stories. The council members seemed pleased. Then came the question they had been expecting. "What military capabilities does your species possess?" asked a creature that looked like a living rock formation. All council members must be able to defend the Alliance. This was the moment they had prepared for. Admiral Tae-hyun stepped forward. "Humans have fought many wars, but we've learned from them. We've developed weapons that can end conflicts quickly with minimal loss of life." He activated a holographic display showing Earth's newest creation, the quantum disruptor. The weapon could disable enemy ships by breaking apart their molecular bonds, but only in specific areas. It was designed to stop attackers without killing anyone. The room went very quiet. Several council members made sounds that the translator couldn't interpret. "This weapon," said Velthara slowly, "it can destroy matter at the atomic level, only in a controlled way." Tae-hyun explained quickly. "It's meant to disable, not destroy. We can target specific ship systems while leaving the crew unharmed." But he could see the fear in their eyes. To these species, who had spent centuries avoiding destructive weapons, the quantum disruptor looked like a tool of mass murder. "In our darkest times," Minho added, trying to help, "humans learned that the best way to end a war is to end it quickly. Quick victories save more lives than long battles. The wrong words at the wrong time." A red alarm started blaring. "Unknown energy signature detected," announced the station's computer. "All ships prepare for possible hostile action." Through the chamber's windows, they could see a small probe approaching the Hanbok. It was scanning their ship with bright blue beams. "Standard security scan," Velthara assured them. "Nothing to worry about." But something went wrong. The probe's scanners overloaded when they hit the Hanbok's quantum shielding. Sparks flew from the small device and it suddenly shot toward their ship like a missile. "Automatic defenses," shouted Lieutenant Kim from the Handbox Bridge over the radio. Something's attacking us. The ship's AI, programmed to protect the crew, activated its defense systems. A pulse of quantum energy shot out, meant to disable the attacking probe. But the energy was too strong. The pulse hit not just the probe, but 3 nearby Council security ships. The ships didn't just stop working. They came apart at the molecular level, dissolving into clouds of basic atoms. 60 Council members died in 3 seconds. The meeting chamber erupted in panic. Some Council members screamed, others made warning calls. All of them looked at the humans with terror. It was an accident, Minho shouted over the noise. Our computer thought we were being attacked. You said you could control it. Velthara's voice was no longer kind. You said it was safe. It is safe. The probe malfunctioned and 60 beings are dead. The rock-like creature's voice boomed through the chamber. Your defensive weapon just committed mass murder. Admiral Taehyun tried to explain about the computer malfunction, about the probe's unexpected behavior, about how the quantum field had been amplified by some unknown interaction. But no one was listening anymore. Emergency broadcasts filled the station's communication systems. The story spread quickly. The new species called humans had demonstrated a terrible weapon, claimed they liked to end wars quickly, then used their ship to kill Council peacekeepers without warning. Within hours, the Council had made their decision. By unanimous vote, Velthara announced, her forearms shaking with emotion. Humanity has been classified as a Category 5. Extinction risk. Your species shows a combination of advanced destructive capability and aggressive psychology that threatens all galactic life. That's not true, Dr. G1 pleaded. If you just let us explain, the decision is final. Velthara would not look at them. Your ship will be escorted to the edge of Council space. Your star system will be quarantined. No human vessel will be permitted to leave. No outside contact will be allowed. The journey back to Earth took 3 months, with Council warships following them all the way. Minho spent the time writing reports that no one would ever read, trying to explain what had gone wrong. As they approached the solar system, they could see it, a massive energy barrier, surrounding everything from Mercury to Pluto. It glowed with a soft blue light that reminded Minho painfully of Velthara's skin. It's beautiful, whispered G1. It's a prison, said Admiral Taehyun. The Hanbok passed through the barrier easily, but when they tried to send a message back to the Council, nothing got through. They were alone. Earth's governments panicked when they heard the news. Some wanted to fight, others wanted to hide, but Admiral Taehyun had a different idea. They think we're dangerous, he said during an emergency meeting in Seoul. Maybe it's time we became dangerous enough to matter. The quarantine had begun. Humanity was cut off from the galaxy, branded as monsters for a terrible accident. But in trying to contain what they feared, the Council had made a choice that would change everything. They had given humanity 5 years to grow strong in the dark, and something else was coming that would make them regret that choice. 5 years had passed since the barrier went up around Earth's solar system. Director Choi Hye-soo stood in her office on Luna Base, looking out at the blue glow that surrounded their prison. She had been chosen to lead the Isolation Protocol Department. Humanity's response to being cut off from the galaxy. Status report, she said to the holographic display showing Earth's current projects. All colonies are now self-sufficient, reported her assistant, a young man named Officer Kang Woo-jin. Mars population has reached 2 million. The asteroid mining operations are producing more metal than we can use, and Engineer Yoon Dong-woo says he has something important to show you. Hye-soo smiled grimly. Humanity had refused to give up when the galaxy abandoned them. Instead, they had done what humans always did when faced with impossible problems. They got creative. The Phoenix Protocol had been her idea. If they were going to be trapped, they would use that time to become stronger than ever before. Every human settlement, every factory, every research station had been focused on one goal: making sure that when humanity emerged from this prison, they would be ready for anything. She took a transport to the Titan research facility where engineer Yoon Dong-woo worked. Dong-woo was brilliant, maybe the smartest human alive. He had been studying pieces of Council technology recovered from the destroyed ships at Harmony Station, trying to understand how alien science worked. Director, Dong-woo called out as she entered his lab. He was a short man with messy hair and clothes covered in oil stains. Around him, dozens of strange machines hummed and glowed. You have to see this. He led her to a device that looked like a metal flower with crystal petals. I finally figured out how their energy systems work. They use something called harmonic resonance to create power. But look at this, he activated the device. The crystal petals began to spin, glowing brighter and brighter. Their technology is very efficient, but it follows strict rules. Everything has to be balanced, everything has to be in harmony. That's why they couldn't understand our quantum disruptor. It works by creating controlled chaos. What does that mean for us? Haisu asked. Dongwu grinned. It means we can do things they never thought possible. Watch this. He connected the alien device to a human power cell. The crystal flower began spinning faster. But instead of the gentle glow the council species would expect, it pulsed with wild, changing colors. Energy readings spiked beyond what should have been possible. You've improved their technology? Haisu couldn't hide her excitement. I've made it human, Dongwu replied. We don't think like they do. They want everything neat and predictable. We're comfortable with chaos, with things that don't make perfect sense. When you combine their knowledge with our way of thinking, he gestured to another machine, this one the size of a small room. I call it the reality engine. It can bend space and time in small areas. With enough power, it could do much more. Across the solar system, other humans were making their own breakthroughs. Commander Kang Soo-jin had built the Seoul Defense Corps into a force that would have amazed the old Earth militaries. Using Dongwu's discoveries, they had ships that could phase in and out of normal space, weapons that could strike targets in different dimensions, and shields that worked by existing in multiple realities at once. Dr. Lim Jae-won, working on the research station near Jupiter, had been studying the barrier itself. What he found worried him. Director, you need to come here immediately, he called Hisu one morning. I've discovered something about the quarantine barrier. The trip to Jupiter took 2 days on the fastest ship they had. When Hisu arrived at the research station, Jae-won looked like he hadn't slept in weeks. I've been analyzing the barrier's energy patterns, he explained, showing her complex readings on his computers. At first I thought it was just keeping us in. But look at these readings from the outer edge. The screen showed waves of energy flowing along the barrier's surface, but something was strange about the pattern. It's not just a prison, Jae-won continued. It's also a shield. Something on the outside has been testing it, probing for weak spots. Hisu felt cold despite the station's warm air. Something's trying to get in? Or we're being used as bait, Jae-won said grimly. The energy signatures are ancient, older than any council technology. And they're getting stronger. That night, Hisu called an emergency meeting with all of humanity's leaders. The holographic conference room filled with faces from across the solar system. Admiral Kim Tae-hyun from Earth, Commander Kang Soo-jin from the Defense Corps, Engineer Yoon Dong-woo from Titan, and dozens of others. We may not be alone in this prison, she told them, sharing Jae-won's findings. Something is coming from outside the galaxy, and the council may have put us here to face it first. The room was quiet for a long moment. Then Admiral Tae-hyun spoke up. The old man looked tired but determined. So they made us their unwilling guards? It looks that way, Hisu confirmed. Commander Soo-jin leaned forward.
How long do we have?
Dr. Jae-won answered from his station near Jupiter. The probing attacks are getting stronger every month. I estimate whatever's out there will try a full assault within 2 years, maybe less. Engineer Dong-woo was quiet during most of the meeting, but finally he spoke up. Maybe this is good news. Everyone stared at him. Good news? Soo-jin asked. Think about it, Dong-woo explained. The council was so afraid of us that they locked us away. But they were also so afraid of what's coming that they're willing to use us as a shield. That means 2 things. We're more dangerous than we realized, and what's coming is more dangerous than the council can handle. Your point? Admiral Tae-hyun asked. My point is that we have 2 years to become something the galaxy has never seen before. We have human creativity, alien technology, and the motivation of people who know they're fighting for their lives. If something breaks through that barrier, it's going to get the surprise of its existence. The meeting ended with new orders going out across the solar system. Production increased on all projects. New weapons were designed and built. Training programs pushed human soldiers to their limits and beyond. But the most important work was happening in secret, in a hidden facility inside the asteroid belt. Engineer Yoon Dong-woo was building something he called the Infinity Engine, a machine that could manipulate the basic forces of reality itself. The council species think in terms of balance and harmony, he explained to his small team of assistants. But the universe isn't balanced. It's chaotic, wild, constantly changing. That's why our technology works differently than theirs. We embrace the chaos instead of fighting it. The Infinity Engine was designed around that principle. Instead of trying to control forces in a predictable way, it would work by creating controlled randomness, by making the impossible happen through pure human stubbornness. Meanwhile, long-range sensors began picking up massive energy signatures at the edge of the galaxy. Whatever was coming was big, and it was moving faster now. Dr. Park Ji-won, who had been working on long-range communication projects, finally managed to punch a small signal through the barrier. She picked up fragments of Council transmissions, panicked messages about evacuation, plans and desperate calls for any ship that could fight. They know it's coming, she reported to Director Heisu. And they're terrified. One message was clearer than the others. It was from Counselor Velthara, the same being who had welcomed humanity to Harmony Station 5 years ago. Ancient enemy has returned. All Council fleets are insufficient. The prophecies spoke of a warrior race. We may have made a terrible mistake. The transmission cut off, lost in the barrier's interference. Director Heisu stood once again in her office, looking out at the blue glow that had imprisoned humanity. But now she saw it differently. It wasn't just a prison anymore. It was a cocoon, and humanity was almost ready to emerge. Officer Kang, she called to her assistant, send a message to all stations. Begin final preparations for Project Emergence. Yes, Director. Should I tell them what we're emerging to fight? Heisu smiled, but it wasn't a happy expression. Tell them we're emerging to save the galaxy that tried to destroy us. And tell them we're going to do it our way. Outside, the barrier continued to glow, tested by probing attacks from something vast and hungry. But inside the barrier, humanity was becoming something new, something the galaxy had never seen before. The Council had wanted to contain a dangerous species. Instead, they had given that species 5 years to become absolutely terrifying, and time was almost up. The alert started screaming across every human facility at the same time. Dr. Lim Jae-hwan was the first to understand what they meant. The barrier is failing, he shouted into his communicator from the Jupiter Research Station. Something massive just hit the outer edge. The energy readings are off the scale. Director Choi Hee-soo rushed to the command center on Luna Base. Through the massive viewport, she could see the blue glow of the quarantine barrier flickering like a dying light bulb. Dark shapes were moving beyond it, shapes so large they blocked out the stars. Get me Admiral Tae-hyun and Commander Soo-jin, she ordered. And wake up Engineer Dongwoo. We're out of time. The holographic displays filled with panicked faces as humanity's leaders connected from across the solar system. Outside, the barrier held for now, but everyone could see it was weakening. Status report, Admiral Tae-hyun demanded. Even at 70 years old, his voice still carried the authority that had led Earth through its last war. Dr. Jae-won's voice crackled through the speakers. 15 massive objects just dropped out of hyperspace at the barrier's edge. Each one is the size of a moon. They're using some kind of energy weapon I've never seen before. Every shot is weakening the barrier. Can you tell what they are? Commander Soo-jin asked. Her Seoul Defense Corps had been preparing for this moment for 5 years, but she had hoped for more time. Scanning now, Jae-won replied. The energy signatures are... Wait, this can't be right. The computer says these readings are over 10,000 years old. A new voice cut into the communication. It was coming from outside the barrier, transmitted on Council frequencies. The translation was rough but understandable. Council emergency broadcast. Under attack by unknown hostiles. Evacuation protocols in effect. Request immediate assistance from any available forces. Then another transmission, clearer this time. It was Counselor Velthara, the four-armed being who had condemned humanity 5 years ago. Her voice was desperate. To any ship receiving this message, the Devourers have returned. Our fleets are destroyed. The ancient enemy comes for all life in the galaxy. We were wrong about the warrior race. We need the humans. The transmission cut to static as something massive blocked the signal. Engineer Yoon Dongwoo materialized in the holographic conference, looking tired but alert. I heard the name Devourers. I know what they are. Everyone turned to look at him. You know, Director Hee-soo asked. I've been studying the old Council databases we captured 5 years ago, Dongwoo explained. Most of it was in languages we couldn't read. but I finally cracked some of the historical files. The Devourers were the reason the Council was formed in the first place. He activated a display showing ancient star charts. 10,000 years ago, they came from beyond the galaxy. They're not a natural species. They're a combination of organic life and artificial intelligence, created by some race that's been extinct for millions of years. They consume entire civilizations, absorbing their knowledge and technology. What stopped them last time? Admiral Taehyun asked. They didn't get stopped, Dongwoo said grimly. They just went dormant. The Council found some way to make them sleep, but it was always temporary. The record spoke of a prophecy about a young warrior race that would be the key to defeating them permanently. Commander Sujin understood first. They thought we were that race, but they were too afraid to find out, Director Haisu added. So they locked us away instead. The barrier flared with brilliant light as another massive attack hit it. Through the glow, they could see the attackers clearly now. The Devourers looked like living ships, with organic curves and metal structures growing together in impossible ways. Tentacles of energy reached out from their hulls, testing the barrier's weak points. How long until the barrier fails completely? Hisu asked. Dr. Jaewon's voice was grim. At this rate? 6 hours, maybe less. Then we make our choice now, Admiral Taehyun declared. Do we let them through to fight the Council that imprisoned us? Or do we defend the galaxy that branded us as monsters? The debate was shorter than anyone expected. Commander Sujin spoke for all of them when she said, We don't win by being monsters. We win by being better than that. Agreed, Director Haisu said. All stations begin Project Emergence. We're going to war. Across the solar system, humanity moved with the efficiency of 5 years of preparation. Hidden shipyards opened their doors, revealing vessels unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Using engineer Dongwoo's reality-bending technology, human ships could exist in multiple dimensions at once, phase through solid matter, and strike from impossible angles. The Sol Defense Corps launched first. Commander Sujin led a fleet of 50 ships toward the failing barrier. Each ship was crewed by volunteers who knew they might not survive the next few hours. All ships, this is Sujin, she announced over the fleet communication system. 5 years ago, the galaxy threw us away like garbage. Today we show them what human garbage can do. The barrier finally collapsed in a cascade of failing energy. The Devourers poured through immediately, their massive forms blotting out the stars. But they stopped when they saw the human fleet waiting for them. For a moment, both sides studied each other. The Devourers had consumed countless civilizations over millions of years. They had seen every type of ship, every kind of weapon, every possible military strategy, but they had never seen anything like the chaotic, impossible designs of human vessels. The first Devourer to attack learned why. It fired a beam of pure destruction that should have vaporized any ship it touched. But the human vessel it targeted simply wasn't there anymore. The ship had phased into a parallel dimension, fired back through the dimensional barrier, then returned to normal space. The Devourer's hull, designed to absorb and adapt to any weapon, couldn't adapt to an attack that followed no logical rules. A hole the size of a city appeared in its side and the massive creature began to die. All ships open fire, Commander Sujin ordered. The battle that followed was unlike anything in recorded history. Human ships danced between dimensions, appearing and disappearing at will. Their weapons struck from angles that shouldn't exist, following paths through space-time that defied physics. The Devourers tried to adapt, but adaptation required understanding. And human technology, built on controlled chaos and impossible solutions, couldn't be understood by minds that thought in logical patterns. But there were too many of them. For every Devourer the humans destroyed, 3 more took its place. Commander Sujin watched her fleet being slowly overwhelmed, despite their technological advantages. This is Sujin to Luna Base, she called back to Director Hisu. We're holding them, but we can't win with conventional forces. Whatever Dongwoo's been building, we need it now. In his secret facility in the asteroid belt, engineer Yoon Dongwoo was making final adjustments to the Infinity engine. The machine was beautiful in its impossibility, a collection of human technology and alien knowledge that somehow worked together, despite violating every rule of engineering. Director, he called Hyesu. The engine is ready, but I need a volunteer to operate it. The human brain is the only thing chaotic enough to control this much reality manipulation. But the mental strain, Will it stop them? Haisu asked. It should stop anything, Dongwu replied. But the operator might not survive the experience. I'll do it, Captain Lee Minho said, stepping into the facility. The man who had led humanity's first diplomatic mission to the Council now looked older, marked by 5 years of guilt over how that mission had ended. Minho, no, Director Hiesu protested. We need experienced pilots for this. You need someone who understands what we're fighting for, Minho replied calmly. I was there when it all went wrong. Let me be here when we make it right. As Minho connected to the Infinity Engine, his consciousness expanded beyond anything human minds were designed to handle. He could see the battle raging across the solar system, could feel the Devourer's ancient hunger, could sense the terror of the Council species fleeing before an enemy they couldn't defeat. But he could also feel something else. The will of humanity, their refusal to give up even when the entire galaxy had abandoned them. That will flowed through the Infinity Engine, transforming its chaotic power into something focused and unstoppable. The largest Devourer, a creature the size of Earth's moon, suddenly found itself existing in 17 different dimensions simultaneously. Its consciousness, spread across multiple realities, couldn't maintain coherent thought. It simply shut down, drifting lifeless through space. 2 more Devourers tried to attack the source of this impossible weapon, but they found themselves fighting echoes of themselves from parallel timelines, trapped in endless loops of causality that made no logical sense. What's happening out there? Commander Sujin called back to base as the massive alien ships began shutting down one by one. Engineer Dongwu monitored the readings from his engine. We're proving that the universe doesn't have to make sense, he replied. Sometimes the best solution is the one that shouldn't work. But the victory came with a cost. Captain Lee Minho collapsed as the mental strain of controlling impossible forces finally overwhelmed him. He was alive but barely conscious, muttering about seeing infinite possibilities all at once. The surviving Devourers, those few that hadn't been caught in the reality storms, retreated beyond the Solar Fleet commander Nam Seo-young stood on the bridge of the Defiance, humanity's newest flagship, as they dropped out of hyperspace near the Sirius system. What she saw made her stomach turn cold. The Council's third fleet was dying. Dozens of their beautiful crystalline ships were being torn apart by 3 massive Devourer vessels. Energy beams that should have destroyed mountains were bouncing harmlessly off the enemy's adaptive hulls. Communications, try to reach the Council ships, Seo-young ordered. She had been promoted after Commander Sujin was injured in the battle for Seoul 3 weeks ago. Now she led humanity's expeditionary force into Council space. This is Fleet Commander Seo-young of the Human Defense Force, she broadcast on all frequencies. Any Council ships receiving this, we're here to help. The response came immediately, filled with static and desperation. Human ships! This is Admiral Kethmar of the Healer Fleet. We have wounded civilians on board. Our weapons are useless against their adaptive armor. Seo-young watched as a Council medical ship, marked with healing symbols, exploded under Devourer fire. Hundreds of alien doctors and nurses died in seconds, people who had spent their lives saving others. All ships, attack formation Chaos 7, she commanded. Show these things what humans learned in 5 years of being angry. The human fleet split apart in a pattern that looked completely random. Ships phased in and out of normal space, attacked from impossible angles, and used weapons that created effects the Devourers had never encountered. Pilot Ominji, flying the experimental fighter Wildcard, managed to slip through a Devourer's shields by existing in 12 dimensions at once. Her quantum torpedoes struck the creature's core from the inside, causing a cascade failure that shut down its adaptive systems. Target down, she called over the communication system. Whatever Engineer Dongwu did to our weapons, these things can't adapt to pure chaos. The battle was turning, but slowly. Each Devourer was the size of a city and had millions of years of combat experience. They learned quickly, and what worked once might not work twice. Dr. Park Ji-won, now serving as humanity's diplomatic contact, managed to establish clear communication with the surviving Council ships as the battle raged around them. Admiral Kethmar, this is Dr. Ji-won, she called to the Healer Fleet commander. We need to coordinate our attacks. Your energy patterns are too predictable for these creatures. Our weapons follow the harmonics of creation, the alien admiral replied, confusion clear in his translated voice. All civilized species use harmonic energy. How do your weapons function without balance? They don't have balance, Juwan explained as a human destroyer phase-shifted through a devourer's hull and fired from inside its body. Human technology works by embracing chaos. We make weapons that shouldn't function, and ships that violate physics. The devourers can't adapt to things that don't follow rules. The last devourer in the system tried to escape, but pilot Minji was already there. Her fighter somehow arrived at the enemy's destination before the massive creature had finished moving, attacking it from a position it hadn't reached yet. Temporal manipulation? Admiral Kethmar asked in amazement as the devourer died. Your species has mastered time travel. Not really, Minji replied cheerfully. I just convinced my ship's computer that cause and effect are more like guidelines than actual rules. The battle was won, but the war was just beginning. Long-range sensors showed devourer fleets moving toward every major council world. They were no longer testing or probing. They were launching a full conquest of the galaxy. In the aftermath of the serious battle, Admiral Kethmar requested permission to come aboard the Defiance. The alien commander was tall and thin, with silver skin and multiple eyes that could see across different light spectrums. He moved with the grace of someone used to working in zero gravity. 5 years ago, the Council branded your species as a threat to galactic peace, he said to Fleet Commander Seo-young and Dr. Ji-won in the ship's meeting room. I was part of that decision. I believed we were protecting the galaxy from dangerous primitives. And now? Seo-young asked. Her tone was neutral, but her eyes were hard. Now I see that we were fools, Kethmar admitted. The prophecies spoke of a warrior race that would save us from the ancient enemy. We were so afraid of your weapons that we never considered you might be our salvation. Dr. Ji-won leaned forward. The Council formally apologizes for the quarantine? More than that, Kethmar replied. The surviving Council members are prepared to offer you full membership and command authority over all defensive operations. Your tactics are the only thing that works against the Devourers. And if we refuse? Seo-young asked. The alien admiral was quiet for a moment. Then the galaxy dies and humanity dies with it. The Devourers consume everything. They don't negotiate, they don't show mercy, and they don't stop until all life is extinct. Meanwhile, engineer Yoon Dongwoo was working frantically in his laboratory, now relocated to a massive factory ship called the Forge. He had been studying captured Devourer technology, trying to understand how their adaptation systems worked. They're not just machines, he explained to Director Choi Hee-soo during their daily conference call. They're not just organic life either. There's something in between, a perfect fusion of biological evolution and artificial intelligence. What does that mean for us? Hee-soo asked. It means they can learn from every battle. Dongwoo replied grimly. They're already starting to adapt to our chaos-based weapons. Look at this. He showed her recordings from the most recent battles. The Devourers were beginning to use random tactics themselves, copying human unpredictability with limited success. They're learning to be chaotic? Hee-soo asked. They're trying to, Dongwoo confirmed. But they don't understand chaos the way humans do. They're using chaos like a tool, following patterns. Real chaos can't be programmed or predicted. That's our advantage, but it won't last forever. The war spread across the galaxy over the following months. Human fleets appeared wherever Devourer attacks were strongest, often arriving just in time to save Council worlds from destruction. Each battle was different, with human commanders using tactics that seemed to defy military logic. Captain Yoon Taejin defended the Crystal Cities of Harmony Prime by convincing his ship's computers that the laws of physics were just suggestions. His fleet attacked by moving backward through time and striking the Devourers before they arrived. Commander Park Jin-woo saved the agricultural world of Greenhaven by weaponizing music. He broadcast human jazz through dimensional rifts, creating harmonic chaos that overloaded the Devourer's pattern recognition systems. But the strangest victory came when pilot Oh Minji found herself alone against a Devourer mothership near the edge of Council space. Her fighter was damaged, her weapons nearly depleted, and reinforcements were hours away. This is Minji to any human ships, she broadcast. I'm about to try something really stupid. If it works, put it in the manual. If it doesn't, tell my family I went out being creative. She flew her fighter directly into the Devourer's main cannon just as it was charging to fire. But instead of being destroyed, she activated her ship's reality anchor, a device that locked her position in space-time. The Devourer fired its weapon with Minji's fighter inside the barrel. The energy blast, unable to escape past the reality anchor, Built up inside the creature's own weapon system, the mothership destroyed itself from within, taking out 3 smaller devourers that were too close to the explosion. Minji, So-young called when rescue ships finally arrived. How are you still alive? I convinced the universe that being inside an exploding energy weapon was perfectly safe, Minji replied as they pulled her from the wreckage of her fighter. It wasn't easy, but the universe eventually agreed with me. The devourers, for the first time in millions of years, began to retreat from some systems. They had never encountered an enemy that could turn their own weapons against them through pure stubbornness and creative thinking. But their retreat was strategic, not a defeat. Long-range sensors detected massive devourer forces gathering at the galactic core, where something ancient and powerful was awakening. They're calling for their master, Dr. Jaewon reported from his analysis of the enemy movements. All of this has been reconnaissance. The real invasion is about to begin. In the deep space between stars, the Devourer Prime stirred from 10,000 years of slumber. It was not just the largest of their kind, but their creator, their guiding intelligence, their perfect fusion of logic and hunger. And it had been watching the human victories with growing interest. For the first time since its creation millions of years ago, the Devourer Prime faced an enemy that didn't follow patterns, didn't obey rules, and refused to be understood. The humans were a chaos factor that threatened everything it had built. It was time to deal with them personally. Fleet Commander Seo-young received the warning from deep space sensors as she led the combined Human Council fleet toward the galactic core. Something was moving out there, something so massive that it bent space-time around itself. All ships, she announced to the largest military force in galactic history, we're about to face the real enemy. Remember what we learned in the last 5 years. When the universe system, but they didn't. The Devourer Prime was larger than Earth's moon and older than most stars. It hung in space at the galaxy's center like a mechanical god. Its hull a twisted fusion of metal and living tissue that had grown over millions of years. Around it, 1,000 smaller devourers waited in perfect formation. Supreme Admiral Nam Seo-young, recently promoted to command the combined Human Council fleet, studied the massive creature through her ship's sensors. The readings made no sense. The thing existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Its consciousness spread across realities that overlapped in impossible ways. Tactical assessment, she called to her staff. It's not just a ship, reported Commander Lee Jinwoo, her tactical officer. Dr. Jiwon's analysis suggests it's the original Devourer, the one that created all the others. It's been collecting knowledge and technology for millions of years. And it's been studying us, added Dr. Park Ji-won from her position at the science station. Our battles with its children weren't just battles. They were tests. It's been learning how human chaos works. Across the bridge, Admiral Kethmar of the Council Forces looked worried. In our oldest records, the Prime is described as unstoppable. It doesn't just consume civilizations. It absorbs their entire history, their culture, their way of thinking. Everything they were becomes part of it. Then we don't give it the chance to absorb us, So-young declared. All ships prepare for the final assault. The combined fleet was impressive. 300 human vessels that defied physics, mixed with 2,000 council ships representing 12 different species. But as they approached the galactic core, the Devourer Prime did something unexpected. It spoke. The voice came through every communication system in the fleet simultaneously. A sound like the death of stars mixed with the whisper of cosmic wind. Humans, it said in perfect, unaccented English. I have been waiting to meet you. So-young felt her blood turn cold. How do you know our language? I know all languages, the Prime replied. I have consumed the thoughts of trillions of beings across countless worlds. But you are different. Your minds work in ways that should not be possible. You create order from chaos and chaos from order. You are fascinating. We're not here to chat, So-young shot back. We're here to stop you. Stop me? The Prime's voice carried what might have been amusement. Child, I have existed since before your species discovered fire. I have absorbed the knowledge of civilizations that built wonders you cannot imagine. What could you possibly do to stop me? Engineer Yoon Dongwoo's voice crackled over the communication system from his position on the factory ship forge. We could show you something you've never seen before. And what is that? Complete creative chaos, Dongwoo replied. You've spent millions of years learning patterns, absorbing knowledge, becoming more logical and predictable. We've spent our entire existence doing the opposite. The Devourer Prime was silent for a moment. Then it laughed, a sound like galaxies colliding. You think your randomness is unique? I have studied chaos theory for eons. I have absorbed species that used unpredictability as a weapon. Your tactics are merely a variation on themes I learned before your solar system formed. To prove its point, the Prime attacked using purely chaotic tactics. Its 1,000 escort ships moved in patterns that seemed random, firing weapons that created impossible effects. For a moment it looked like they were using human-style reality manipulation. But pilot Minji, now leading an elite squadron of reality anchor fighters, saw the difference immediately. It's fake chaos, she called over the battle communication. It's following random number generators using chaos like a program. That's not how real chaos works. She dove her fighter through a gap that shouldn't have existed, flying between dimensions that were folding into each other. Her squadron followed, each pilot thinking in ways that couldn't be programmed or predicted. The Devourer escorts tried to adapt to the human attack patterns, but they couldn't. Real chaos wasn't something that could be learned or copied. It required a specific kind of mind, one that could hold contradictory ideas simultaneously and find solutions that violated logic. Impossible, the Devourer Prime muttered as its escorts began falling to the human assault. Random behavior should be predictable given sufficient analysis. That's your first mistake, called Captain Lee Minho from his command position. The man who had survived operating the Infinity Engine now commanded a ship that existed in 17 dimensions at once. You think chaos is random, but human chaos isn't random. It's creative. The battle raged across multiple realities as the human fleet demonstrated 5 years of accumulated impossible technology. Ships fired weapons that struck yesterday's targets, created effects that existed before their causes, and moved through space by convincing the universe that distance was just an opinion. But the Devourer Prime was adapting faster than its escorts had. It began to understand that human chaos wasn't about randomness, but about creativity, about finding solutions that no logical mind would consider. Fascinating, it said, as it started copying human tactics more successfully. Chaos as creative force rather than random event. I will absorb this knowledge and become stronger. That's when Dr. Park Ji-won realized the true danger they faced. It's learning to think like us, she warned over the fleet communication. If it absorbs human creativity, it will become unstoppable. Engineer Dongwoo had been preparing for this possibility. Deep in the forge's engineering section, he activated his masterwork, the Paradox Engine, a machine that made the Infinity Engine look simple. Supreme Admiral, he called to Shoyoung, I need someone to deliver the Paradox Engine directly to the Prime's core. But whoever does it won't survive the experience. The engine works by creating contradictions so absolute that reality gives up trying to resolve them. I'll do it, Captain Minho volunteered immediately. No, Shoyoung replied firmly. You've done enough. I'm the fleet commander. This is my responsibility. Actually, interrupted a new voice, it's mine. Admiral Kim Tae-hyun appeared on the communication screen. The elderly man who had led humanity's military for decades was aboard a small ship, heading directly for the Devourer Prime. Admiral, what are you doing? Shoyoung demanded. What I should have done 5 years ago, Tae-hyun replied calmly. I'm the one who approved the weapons demonstration that started this whole mess. Time to finish what I started. His ship, loaded with the Paradox Engine, accelerated toward the Prime's massive hull. The ancient creature tried to stop him with weapons that could destroy planets, but Tae-hyun's ship simply ignored them, existing in a state where destruction and survival were the same thing. This is impossible, the Devourer Prime said, its voice showing confusion for the first time. Your ship should be destroyed. My sensors show it both existing and not existing simultaneously. Welcome to human logic, Admiral Tae-hyun replied as his ship phased through the Prime's armor like it wasn't there. We specialize in impossible things. The Paradox Engine activated inside the Devourer Prime's core consciousness. Suddenly, the ancient being found itself facing contradictions that couldn't be resolved. It was simultaneously absorbing human knowledge and being absorbed by it, learning creativity while remaining logical, becoming more chaotic while maintaining perfect order. For a creature that had spent millions of years organizing reality into understandable patterns, the experience was devastating. Its consciousness, spread across multiple dimensions, began to fracture as it tried to process ideas that couldn't coexist, cannot resolve. Paradox. The Prime's voice became distorted, overlapping with itself across different realities. Logic requires, creative chaos demands. Impossible to. The massive creature began to shut down, its systems overwhelmed by contradictions it couldn't process. Around it, the 1,000 escort devourers lost their guiding intelligence and simply stopped functioning. But Admiral Taehyun's sacrifice had done more than destroy the enemy. As the paradox engine tore through the Prime's consciousness, it also absorbed all the knowledge the creature had collected over millions of years. Dr. Jiwon, Taehyun's voice crackled over the communication one last time. I'm downloading everything. The locations of their home systems, the technology they stole, the histories of every civilization they consumed. Use it well. The transmission ended as space-time folded in on itself around the dying Devourer Prime. When the distortion cleared, both the ancient enemy and Admiral Taehyun were gone, leaving only a rapidly expanding field of inactive Devourer ships. The galaxy was saved, but the cost had been enormous. As the combined fleet regrouped, Xiaoyong found herself in command of the largest military force in galactic history, with no enemies left to fight. What happens now? Asked Admiral Kethmar during the post-battle conference. Now we build something better, Dr. Park Jiwon replied. Using the knowledge Admiral Taehyun had downloaded from the Devourer Prime, she had learned the locations of thousands of worlds that had been consumed over the millennia. Some could be restored, their civilizations rebuilt from the absorbed memories. The Council offers to make humanity its leaders. Kethmar continued. Your species saved us all. You have earned the right to rule. Supreme Admiral Seoyoung considered this for a long moment. 5 years ago, the Council had branded humanity as dangerous monsters.